front still leads by 3 frames to 1 at the mid-session interval.
Well, I think the Australians call it doing a Bradbury, but Mark King has taken that 4th frame off Judd Trump, who will look back on that kick and feel hard done by. However, it's 3-1 at the mid-session interval. We'll get the thoughts of Alan and Stephen in a couple of minutes.
You've reached your destination.
Yeah, another one.
Johnston's Decorating Centres, sponsors of evenings on ITV4.
I know I want it, but do I deserve it?
Her no wiki, she'll keep the doctor.
To get custody of the kids. We finally got custody, which Neil paid for their attorney, he paid for my attorney, and it was a battle.
It was a battle. Your ex didn't want to let the kids go.
No.
Neil soon adjusts to life as a stepfather. He continues to run his successful printing business from home, and Patricia opens up a small seafood diner close by. Chris and Amanda had few rules, and before long, life becomes difficult.
How old were the kids when you started noticing there were problems?
Amanda, I'm going to say about 9th or 10th grade.
Well, a lot of teenage girls around that age can be difficult.
Patricia says Neil was old-fashioned when it came to discipline. It was his house, and the kids had to live by.
Although after a few dates, she did discover that the cute boy with the sharp shoes was exactly her type, in all the wrong ways.
Her taste in men seemed to be her downfall.
He did have prior instances of violence.
He was 18, I believe, very young, somewhat impulsive.
Impulsive enough that by the time he was 18, he'd already racked up a juvenile record.
He didn't have any lengthy criminal history.
They were minor incidents, mostly.
There was an episode where he and I think his brother had gotten into a violent fight with some other people.
But they were enough to get him transferred to an alternative school.
He was kicked out of the regular school. So, I mean, that's a red flag on him right there.
However, despite the red flags, Javier appeared to be a perfect gentleman.
He was very nice, very attentive, would bring her lunch while she was at work, things like that.
So for much of that June and July, Gabriela and Javier went out, casually.
They were kicking it. That's where you're in a dating relationship, but there's no expectation of sex.
At least there was no expectation on Gabriela's part. But what about Javier?
There was a sense that Javier Barrios may have been more into the relationship than Gabby was.
Although after a few weeks of dating, it appeared that she had come around to Javier's way of thinking. At least that's what their families both thought.
His family and her family both thought they were boyfriend and girlfriend.
His family babysat for her while they went out, and they were accustomed to having her around their home.
In fact, by the end of the summer, it looked as if Gabriela and Javier were well past the point of just kicking it.
They appeared to be an exclusive boyfriend-girlfriend that summer.
But that fall, a fatal encounter in a Plainfield parking lot would leave the police wondering, was their relationship as exclusive as it appeared? Coming up, the investigators find a motive.
The restraining order been filed against him.
And they find Gabriela.
There's a guy in the room with Gabriela.
Did you know Nestle breakfast cereals like Shreddies, Cheerios and shredded wheat have whole grain as their #1 ingredient? They are also high in fiber. And what's more, they have no artificial colours or flavours. We're Nestle cereals. Just look for the green banner.
Max Factor presents Recurl Attic Mascara. Who says you can't have volume and curl? The new brush creates outrageous volume and vivacious curl. over and over and over. Become a curl addict. With Max Factor, the makeup of makeup artists. Discover the rainbow. Taste the rainbow. Feel like you'll never find the best travel deals? Use Kayak's tools to find flights, hotels, and car hire offers from hundreds of sites. Go to kayak.co.uk.
Oh, that's Steve.
Never believed in fairy tales.
No.
Knights
Nothing.
shining armor or happily ever after.
Look at them, mate.
But you believed when the right one came along, you'd be ready. Time to shine. Extra.
Live life full throttle. Opportunity starts on Gumtree.
With plenty to go around for just $15.99, the Double Bucket is a mighty good deal. The Double Bucket, it's finger-licking good.
L'ordine del suo caffè?
Adesso?
Fanno bene i caffè qui.
Paranormal Survivor invites real people to share the terrifying and supernatural encounters they've experienced.
How do you protect your family from something that you can't see?
I heard somebody running down the stairs.
Dark shadows just standing there watching me.
2 hands on my back, and they pushed me.
I was so scared.
Something hit me in the middle of my sleep.
My face was touched and stroked.
I woke up screaming.
I felt nauseous. I felt terror.
I knew that the spirits had taken control of her.
Paranormal Survivor Double Bills. Weekdays at 10. Only on True TV.
Why take a mother? Why take a father? You destroyed my family.
These are the terrifying
Steven!
stories.
I think Papa's calling
You know.
You can't kill your problem. You know, if your neighbor's your problem, you gotta deal with it.
He finally got his way.
He looked like a loose cannon, like ready to just burst. She felt threatened for her life.
The anger that he had inside him, it was like pure evil.
Real life stories of neighborhood crime. A Fear Thy Neighbor Double Bill. Tonight at 10.
I got
True TV.
this for you.
Oh,
Oh,
thanks, young lady.
that okay?
Yeah.
At a
It
little
feels so
before
small
5
now.
o'clock on October 28,
They got
2007, the police in Plainfield, Illinois, were flooded with multiple 911 calls about a shooting at the corner of Route 59 and 135th Street.
This happened in broad daylight at a gas station at a busy intersection.
And while the police arrived within minutes, they were too late to help the victim.
By the time cops got to the scene, it was clearly already deceased.
The victim was a young male, identified as 18-year-old Javier Barrios.
One of the cops that shows up on the crime scene happened to be the school police liaison for the special school where Mr. Barrios had attended and knew Javier Barrios.
He'd been shot a total of 3 times. According to the passing motorists, most had heard the first shot and seen Javier run and collapse. And then
He just walked over and shot him without saying anything.
It was a hit. It was execution style.
Then, after executing Javier, the killer and his getaway driver had just as calmly fled the scene in a black sedan.
After the shooting, they pull out of the parking lot, stop at a stoplight, and then drive away.
But who was the killer who seemed so nonchalant about committing a murder in broad daylight? Despite the numerous witnesses who'd seen the car leaving the scene, the investigators had only a general description, but no immediate leads, not even a license plate. However, when the investigators did a quick record search on Javier, a promising lead immediately surfaced.
When cops ran Barrios' name, they found that a restraining order had been filed against him.
And the person who'd taken out the order was Javier's girlfriend, Gabriela Escucha. The order of protection was dated October 11th, roughly 2.5 weeks prior to the shooting.
Gabriela had accused Barrios of threatening her and her family.
There were definitely physical intimidation.
According to the order, the threats and intimidation began in September, when she'd ended their 3-month romance.
Gabriella said that she had tried to move their relationship into a friendship.
She's actively trying to pull away from Barrios.
However, the order of protection claimed that the more Gabriela tried to pull away, the more aggressive Javier became.
It ultimately escalated to an incident where he came to her house.
According to the report, Javier had shown up at her house on September 27th and started screaming at her from the street.
Barrios continues with the verbal assaults, with the threats.
And when Gabriela refused to let him in, the order of protection claimed that Javier had taken his anger out on Gabriela's car.
He's shooting out windows, he's shooting out headlights.
It was only a BB gun, but still.
This was in broad daylight.
And then, when Gabriela had rushed out to stop him from shooting up the car,
He shot her with the BB gun.
the report said that Javier had physically assaulted her, too.
He grabs her throat with both hands until she's afraid that she's not going to be able to breathe.
And it appeared that the allegations in the order of protection might have been true. When the investigators dug further, they discovered that Gabriela had reported the incident.
She had gone to the police.
But nothing had come of it.
They treated it just like, well, this is a lover's quarrel, and they said, you know, do you want to press charges? And I think she was afraid at the time, and so police didn't act.
However, Javier's threats had apparently continued. So Gabriela had gone to the authorities again and taken out the order of protection.
She'd done what the police said, got an order of protection. She thought that was going to keep her safe.
But now that Javier was dead, the police couldn't help but wonder. Had Gabriela decided to take matters into her own hands? There was nothing in her history that